Have you ever traveled through time? We do it every day.
Asgardia is a country with a population of more than 1 million people from more than 200 countries on Earth. Asgardia gives everyone equal opportunities, no matter what their earthly status is.
It is possible to create and live in the future right now. Are you ready? Forward progress is the solution to the entire human race. Our mission is to bridge new horizons. In Asgardia, there is no limit to the universal development in the fields of technology, finance, and arts. Asgardia is a new space and digital economy which creates opportunities for the global economy. We deliver innovations. Do you want to get on board with us? We are developing various kinds of digital businesses, attracting them to the Asgardia platform that can be backed by the means of our umbrella, i.e. franchising of the Asgardia brand. We can not only attract investments into space programs from prominent institutional investors, but also affordable amounts from the citizens of Asgardia. We comprise of more than 1 million people.
Asgardia is a chance to realize one's dream. This is a dream-driven space nation. Asgardia is a chance to belong to a community of free-thinking enthusiasts, goal-driven dreamers, and fearless innovators, theorists, and scientists.
We are the first space nation. One humanity, one unity.
Asgardia.
We are creating
The future.
Gentleman a few years back who was selling acreage on the moon. Now, everyone knows you can't, technically you can't own it, but he made over $1 million doing that. And then you got where you can name a star for a family member. That costs money. Yes. People do that, even though it never really gets registered. Now, I can see if it's something like that, but not actual people on the ground.
Yes. Anyway, we're live
Great
now,
decision.
so be careful what you say because we're live now.
Well, I'm done.
My coffee is ready.
Well, I'm gonna now.
Yeah.
I'm looking for our chairman. I don't know where he is. Worse than me.
Nine and wake up.
Live, but not necessarily awake.
Yeah. Are you sure we are in the correct hour? What is Lambert?
He's not traveling or something, is he?
I don't know. It's so early for him.
Well, we're sort of short of our chairman, but It is our Alf. Welcome everyone to the Alf. I can't take you very far, but for those on the outside, my name's Peter Morn. I'm the Deputy Chairman of the Asgardian Parliament, the first working space nation and the first fully democratic, non-physical parliament. So we hope you enjoy the Alf today. But at the moment, we are devoid of our chairman, and he was a very, very busy man, and that'll be why. And when he comes, we'll get into the agenda, but I can't really start it without him being here. So if anyone would like to sing a song, just put your hand up and I can call you onto the microphone. Other than that, I've just been to a political surgery, speaking to residents who are the resident told me that social services at the council have an arrangement with all of the lawyers here so that they don't criticize each other. And I said to her, well, that's very interesting, but let me just tell you, I am a lawyer and I've got no arrangement with social services. And that kind of shut her up. She also said she was 100% disabled and needed full assistance, and then told me she'd just come back from visiting her business in Spain, where she visits regularly, which didn't sound like someone who was 100% disabled. So you have to be careful what you're told. But what I can tell you is that it's a privilege to be an Asgardian, and if anybody is watching who is not a resident of Asgardia, that can easily be arranged, and it's only a cost of 100 euros, effectively 100 solars, which is our currency, and they're pared with euros. So if anybody is interested after this meeting and wants to join Asgardia, we will welcome you with open arms, because we have no barriers to anyone by ethnic or other origin. So come along and join us. And in the meantime, Lembit Opik, who is chairman of the parliament, has joined us, and I'm delighted to see him. And Lembit, you're on.
Thank you very much for starting. I was having problems opening my internet, and also I owe you all an apology. I got the time wrong. There's a very simple reason for that. And the reason is that, hopefully my camera will come on again. The reason for that is, don't know why the camera's not working. There we are. Let's see if I'm going to appear in the picture or not. Right.
Yes,
the reason is because, if you recall, the last time we had our meeting, I was returning from seeing the head of nation for a meeting before the the Asgardia Executive Congress, and so we moved it for that one time to 1100. I forgot to change it back again, so I do apologize. Thank you everybody for turning up, and if you're watching this afterwards, I apologize that it's not at 1300, it's at 1100 today. At 1300, I'll try and make sure, I think we'll be finished by then. I'll try and make sure that, oh, my picture seems to have frozen. I'm not sure if anyone can hear me. Yeah, I think my computer's still settling down a little bit. So 1300, I shall make sure that everybody who needs to know knows that we started a bit earlier than planned. So it'll be back to 1300 next time, unless I'm traveling to see head of nation or something like that. Right, okay, so just to tell me also if there's too much background noise, I hope it'll be okay. Welcome everybody. Peter's already done a great job of telling you about joining Asgardia. I am indeed chair of the Parliament of Asgardia. Good to see all of you here. As I said, it's quite loud where I am, so please do tell me if there's too much background noise, and then we can do something about that as well. Now, the purpose of these meetings, as all of you know, is in order to prepare. Well, we talk about things of importance to Asgardia, but basically we prepare on this occasion for the next digital sitting. That'll be the final digital sitting of this year. It's in 2 weeks' time. Often we have the meeting 1 week before the sitting, but we're doing it 2 weeks before the sitting because of Thanksgiving in the United States of America. So what we have is we will be looking at really one important item, which is the legislation which is coming up. You got now the Asgardia Opportunities Act, the Asgardia Digital Content Authorization Act, the Asgardia Space Debris Mitigation and Management Act, the Asgardia Space Traffic Management Act, and the Asgardia Youth and Educational Framework Act. Those are the things we are discussing. I expect this will take between 1 and 2 hours. It's hard to say exactly. I would expect to be finished by 1300, which is the time we originally would have started. So hopefully that's my guess. But we have up to 4 hours if we need it. I don't think we'll need it because of the timing. Unless things become very long, I think we'll do this without a break. What I'm hoping is that each of the people who are presenting are here. I'm not sure if I haven't checked yet to see who's here. If John Fine is here. John Fine might still be aiming for the later time. Yes, so you might well be. So we've got John Fine covering 3 of these actually, and Ferdinand covering 2, and Sabahattin covering 1 of them. It might be that they are, I'm just looking to see who's here. Yeah, it might be that they're actually expecting the later time. I'm just going to ask if colleagues can hold on for 1 minute while I give, well, basically, let me do all the other business and see if they show up. But basically, we need to have them here really to cover the documentation. I can do it, but it's better if they do it. I'm just thinking now what the best thing to do is for these acts, because we really need John Furder and Sabahattin here. It might be if you are able to do this for a minute, I will contact John now to see if he's available. Very early in the morning there. I also, it's thanks to Sarah that I realized the mistake I'd made. It's 5 a.m. where Sarah is, 6 a.m. where John is. And Sarah's just joined, in fact. And it's, as I say, thanks to Sarah that she pointed out my mistake in the agenda in terms of the timings. Maybe what I can therefore do, just try and make a quick call. You look tired. You're up, Sarah. Thank you for being here at this time of day. It is, as I say, it is a mistake, and we will return to the better time in future. It's quite obvious that the later time is better for everybody. But on this occasion, having spoken to my team, we decided we'll carry on with these timings for now. Now, what I need to do is I need to contact Sabahattin. I'm going to start with him. I would say, let's just see if I could actually ask if it might be possible. Would it be possible to do the following? I'm just going to speak to Sabahattin, and while I'm doing that, would it be possible, Peter, if you just gave a quick summary to the chairs of all the, I know you're driving, but just an explanation that the head of nation needs reports from everybody. Most of them are in, but the chairs of committees, I need the reports. Can you do that while I'm calling Sabahattin, Peter? No one can hear you, still on mute.
Right, okay. Oh, unless you'd like me to call John Fine.
If you call John Fine, that would be great. Yeah, and
I'm calling John now. I'm just pulling up the Wood Junction.
Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
call John.
All right, that's good. And in the meantime, let me just go through a couple of things. Then this is actually the only other business, but I can do this now as well. Pete, yeah. Right, okay, a couple of other things for the announcements. The announcements are as follows. The digital sitting will be the final one for the year, and that's in 2 weeks' time. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're normal times. 1700 day 1, 1300 day 2, and I think it's 1500 we start day 3. usual agenda, but it's a big one. We now have more emphasis on the committee reports. The head of nation is very interested in what the committees are doing, so we spend more time working on those committee reports than we used to. I have 8 reports from committee chairs. I need the other 4 as well, so I'll contact you directly. I need them now because we need to get them translated. That's why it's important I get them, because the translation takes a little bit of time. Because head of nation reads all of them personally, and he spent a lot of time looking at all the documents that were sent to him in advance of the most recent Asgardia Executive Congress. I was very impressed. He must have spent hours going through what you submitted. So please, if you have not submitted yet, there are 4 of you, 4 committee chairs have not yet submitted, then please could you do so? I will write to you as well. They don't have to be long reports, but they do need to be reports. I need to have those. The committee chairs' roles have actually increased in terms of their status and their importance. And that's because head of nation can see how much work is being done. And I think the single most important thing to recognize is that the committees are the powerhouse of the parliament. And when they work well, then they do basically deliver results that can generate wealth, for example. And they can do things which essentially make us visible so that people will join. And by visible, I mean, for example, newsworthy and relevant to the social networks. So that the committee reports are really part of that process. And I'd expect over the next 12 months, they'll become even more important as we move towards the establishment of physical territory. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. I also think that if the committees work well, it makes it more enjoyable to be on the parliament, because you can really see the progress we're making all the time. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing that I wanted to say is that with the big statement by the head of nation at the Asgardia Executive Congress, it's now quite obvious that what we are doing as our #1 priority is finding territory on Earth, which we can call Asgardian land. That territory is physical. The head of nation is very interested in getting territory in Antarctica, and his feeling is that we can do this. If we do go to Antarctica, there are obviously some logistical challenges in getting there, but there is also a 1.6 million square kilometer piece of land which has not been claimed by anyone. It's called Mary Bird Land. And for reasons which I'll just explain briefly, Dr. Asher Bailey believes that we can make a claim on that. One thing is for sure, that by 12th October next year, we need to have land. And we all need to be part of that process. If you're watching and you're not part of the parliament, we welcome any suggestions or any proposals from you about land that we can get. Fundamentally, the issue is that once we have that land, then we can fulfill something called the Montevideo Convention terms to be recognized as land. The Montevideo Convention has 4 aspects to it. The first one is that to be recognized as a nation. The 4 are that there is physical territory, that it has a population, that it has a government, and that it is capable of making arrangements with other countries. Those are really the four things. And they're generally regarded as the four conditions of recognition as a nation. But the territory is everything for us here. As far as I'm concerned, that's what we need to work on, and it's very important that we do. I know there's been quite a lot of debate here about this. The head of nation made his position very clear, and that's what we should be working towards. We'll see where we end up. But I have been working on this, and other people have been working on it too. So as far as I'm concerned, that is really the number one priority for us to find territory. It could be that you know of an island, or you know of another piece of land that we could negotiate with a nation state to own. And in order to do that, what we have to do is we have to be seen to be in charge of that land, not just as residents of somebody else's territory, but land that we can call our own. That's absolutely 100% central to the whole process. And as such, because of that, I would suggest that we need to work hard to find a piece of territory. One other point on this: if we're serious about being recognized as a nation, we have to act like one, and that means we have to have the confidence to believe that we can do this. One more point about the Antarctica initiative. Some say that we can't accept that. We can't run that land or own it, to be precise, because other people have signed an Antarctica treaty, which stops us from owning it. But we were not even in existence at that time, and it would be an unusual thing to be committed to legislation which we weren't even part of. We didn't exist when it was been agreed.
How can you do it?
Huh? I can't. I did not learn.
Sorry. That was Peter. As Peter's driving instructions coming out there to the world. So to those who say, well, we weren't part of the original agreement, therefore for those who say that we are contained and limited by that original agreement, the legal answer seems to be, well, we weren't actually signatories. And a good example is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There are countries which have not signed it, and therefore they don't consider themselves to be part of it. And that's a very important precedent, because if you believe that those countries can have nuclear weapons because they were not signatories to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, then the same precedent should apply to us. I don't want to have a very long conversation about this today, but I'm willing to have a short conversation about this today. So that's where we stand, and there's a lot more to discuss on that. And I would like to talk a lot more on that, about that at the digital sitting on the day 3. I'm going to add it really as an opening, or as a discussion point for us. So let me just, before we go into the rest of the forum discussion, let me take Peter's position, Peter's comment. It might be about John.
The first comment is that John's not answering his telephone.
Okay. It's a time of day.
The second thing is that with regards to laws not applying to you if you weren't party to the making of them, that's kind of a fallacious argument. If you look at national laws, I never asked anybody to sign the Road Traffic Act in Britain, but I'm subject to it and I can be prosecuted if I break it. Anyway, that's just by the by. And we are part of this country, I am, and we are part of the terrestrial world, whether we like it or not. Anyway, my main bit news was that I can't get John to answer the phone. I'm afraid.
Keep talking, Peter. I'm just talking to Sagittarius.
Yeah, I will do that, but it's the argument about laws not applying to you if you weren't party to the treaty which created the laws is, as I say, as a lawyer, I find that a fallacious argument, because we all of us are citizens of the world, and we all of us subject to any worldwide agreements, but I think we have a good argument that we shouldn't be. So I think the fact is that legally, I think we're bound, and I'm working hopefully with the head of a nation to look at the legal implications of the Antarctic land. But we can't say we're not subject to that law, but we can argue that it shouldn't be enforced because we weren't party to it, and that if they want us to be party to it, we'll have to renegotiate with them, and in which case that gives us the solution that we want anyway. But it's a very difficult argument, and a one which I'm happy to explore and to follow, but it's not an easy argument to win.
Okay, well, there's more to be said on that. Ariadne?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, when I heard the Prime Minister talking about Antarctica, I recall the treatment about Antarctica from 1961, where the place is only for research, investigation. And I understand that point because the also head of the nation says he wants to create a place for investigation, for training people to live, to know how to live in the space, not for building houses for us. And I think it's very reasonable to think in Antarctica for that, because anybody goes there to live, goes to investigate, to create a building for training people, for science people. And in that issue, I think it's correct. Maybe it's the root land that we need to create the future in the space. The space is very dangerous. It's cold as the Antarctica too. And well, if the people goes to Antarctica to create the environment similar for the hidden face of the moon, well, why not? I think it's a good idea to encourage in that place. But is my opinion, is my reasonable thinking about the comments of head of the nation and also Prime Minister. And I don't know, maybe do you want a place for live? But we are living in the earth, in many places of the earth, and the real place that we want to live in the future is the space. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Just taking that point in turn, the reality is that we need those four conditions. And Dr. Asher Bailey made a very good point at the Congress. I had not considered this point before. We do have a population. The Montevideo Convention does not say the population all has to live in one place. If everybody in the whole of Italy left at the same time, say to go on holiday, Italy would still exist. It would just not have anyone in it at the time. Or they wouldn't have any Italian residents in it. So in that sense, there's no real debate about that in a way. It's obvious that you can have a population and you don't have to have it all in the same place. So that's a really interesting solution, that we do need territory. So the question really is about territory. And one of the possibilities, as I say, is that we get part of Asgardia. It's a very interesting discussion. Ricky's made some points on it too. My mission is to get territory. Number one priority, the single most important contribution I can make in the next 11 months is to help get that territory. And I think that's true of all of us. Do I want to live in Antarctica? I'm willing to. I can live there if I have to, but the most important thing is that we have somewhere we can call Asgardia on Earth. At the beginning, the intention, the goal was that we did not have Earth territory. That was the original attempt that we were trying to have. But then it became obvious that because of the Montevideo Convention, we do need to have that territory. And that's the big thing, really. And that's why we'll be discussing this a lot. And on the third day, in the opening part of the event, I'll be talking about that as well. I'll be talking about on day 1 and day 3. It's not a crisis, it's just a necessity. We have to do this, that's the point. Does anybody else want to say anything on this before we move on? I've got some information. Spahateen's actually put a message in that he's at an event, which I'll talk about in a moment. He's I can't see it now, but I saw a message to everybody. Yeah, he's at the opening of a book fair, so I'll be covering Sabahateen's legislation next.
Is here Sabahateen right now.
Oh right, okay. Oh yes, I see. He's actually at a book fair. He's here. I'll do the talking, and Sabahateen can interrupt. We'll start on his legislation while we try to get the others. As I say, it's a simple, easy mistake to make because we all follow habit. And this is normally 1300, and it's my fault, and so that's why we've got the timing issue. Don't apologize, Sabahateen. It's great that you're at a book fair. We need books, and we need people who read them and write them. So very good. Oh, there you are. Do you want to say a word to Sabahateen, and then he's waving. Yeah, I'll cover the legislation for him because I helped to write it. So that won't be a problem. It's a fairly quick one anyway. So good to see you, Sabahateen. Thank you for making a visit. He is busy, but I'll cover this as well. And if you want to say anything, Sabahateen, go ahead. Derek says same goes to the Geneva Convention, so we don't need to follow them as well. Is a good point. Now that's a really interesting discussion, and Peter makes an interesting point about legislation that existed in Britain before perhaps we were born. The Road Traffic Act goes back to 1834. There's a very old piece of legislation indeed, and I understand the point that's being made there. I do get that point, but we have to find land somewhere. We have to find it. My hope is that we can celebrate that on the 10th anniversary of Asgardia, which is 12th October next year. And I hope we can, I can't promise this, but I hope we can all celebrate this together at a shared location. Okay, before I go into Sabahateen's legislation, Ricky says that sounds so Canadian. And Carol loves book fairs. I have not been to a book fair for a long time. I'd like a tea, Sarah. You'd like a coffee. There we go. I don't have the opportunity to have either. Okay, let's carry on. Returning to the agenda, I'm going to start with Sabahateen's Youth and Education Framework. Then we'll see if John or Ferda have both been contacted, are able to join us to do their pieces of legislation. If necessary, I can cover it, but I would much prefer it if we can get them to cover it. So let's go to the second reading of the Asgardia Youth and Education Framework Act. Now, if somebody, I can't screen share when I'm presenting because I need to keep seeing what is happening. I find that difficult to do. If anyone is able to screen share that act, then feel free to do so. But let me tell you, you've all got access to it because of the documents which have been shared for the next sitting. This is a fairly simple thing to explain, and it's a hard thing to do. Here's why. What we're actually doing is we're creating an entire education system based on best practice. I think it's on Slack. Yeah, Sarah, I think it's in Slack. Sabahattin sent a picture of where he is. It looks nice there. The weather there is better than the weather here, Sabahattin, I can assure you of that. And I'm glad that you're having a good experience there. Here, thank you, Sabahattin. You put it into the chat. It's actually in the chat. He's put the latest version into the chat. So basically, that's actually the report. He's put the report in there. But what I'm actually looking at is the opportunity for us. So that's the report he's put there. The opportunity for us to have an education system which is built on the very best practice in the United Kingdom, all over the world, and in all the countries which have a sophisticated education system, without having the problems. There are all kinds of questions this raises, and I'll raise those questions for discussion in a moment. Basically, the Youth and Education Framework Bill is a piece of legislation which really defines the overall picture of how we want that legislation, more than that, how we want the education system to work. That's basically how I would describe it. I'm just going to go through it, and do stop me if anything that I say is complicated or confusing. It's long, so I won't go through every single thing. But I will read the preamble, that this law supports the development and empowerment of young citizens, recognizing their vital role in humanity's future beyond Earth. The Act commits to fostering equality, innovation, inclusivity, sustainability, and lifelong learning. The Act establishes processes to equip youth to advance knowledge, excel in science and technology, and responsibly steward our cosmic heritage for the progress of Asgardian humankind. Now, I won't go through all the core principles, there are 6, but the core principles also recognize that we learn all our lives. So our education system is not limited only to young people, it's there for everybody. And the articles, there are 14 of them. The articles, and including some definitions actually, go into quite a lot of detail in terms of what those definitions mean for us. The reason that definitions are important is because different countries use different language to use the same language to mean different things. I'll give you one example. In the United Kingdom, a public school is a school where you actually pay for your children to go. Whereas the state school is a school that is paid for by the government. So a public school is actually a private school. In America, as I understand it, a public school really does mean that it's a state-sponsored school rather than a private school. So they mean opposite things. So we have to get the definitions right. The definitions cover young Asgardian, free and compulsory education, discrimination, accessibility, educational authorities, educational framework, compulsory basic education, values of tolerance and peace, space-based society, space sciences and technology, space exploration, space technology, celestial mechanics, planetary science, remote sensing, and exobiology. Those all matter. I won't read them out, but you'll find them all there. It also explains a whole set of other related things like educational curriculum and so forth. You'll find in total there are 15 definitions there. Then there are rights and responsibilities, and they outline that everyone has a right to education. These are the main points. The objectives, the right to participation, health and safety and privacy, and the responsibilities of the Asgardians to engage in education. The next article covers the system, the structure, governance, administration, stakeholder participation, standards and protection. And that really forms the foundation of the legal framework. It's the protection for everybody to make sure that they get treated in a fair way in the education system. Let me just go to Sabahattin. You go ahead, Sabahattin. I'll just stop there for a minute.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm attend to books fairs today in my city, opening ceremony. I search about the space education all of the world in university. Many university have a space education programs. I list sent to you my reports. These university very important. I will be search space education programs. I will be prepared to Asgardia space education programs next times. Very important for university programs. I will be collect to about to university programs, and we prepare to Asgardia space education programs or course programs, maybe university programs, maybe master, maybe PhD programs. I will be try next time, and we will be try to volunteer training programs and space literacy curriculum and development of Asgardian educational institute framework, and we will be youth leaders, Asgardia youth leaders programs. Next times I will be try prepare university programs, volunteer programs, and Asgardia education programs, and institute organization. I will be try. I sent to you my summary reports. I will be try to next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabahattin, for helping, even though you are in a busy place. I really appreciate you coming in and doing that. That's really useful. And it's a very good report. I've been looking at it while you were talking. It does look like you have found in Europe, North America, Asia,
Yes.
Australia,
Yes.
South America, and Turkey, you have found 41 potential
Yes. Education
partners.
programs. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just a great piece of work. It's amazing. You can be in a book fair and still do so much work. So thank you very much. It's really impressive. And a part of that, of course, is making sure that we convert ideas into action. I've said that many times, but Tim, you're basically central to this as well. So thank you for that. Just checking this, and just looking at messages. Oh, Sarah said, should she share the legislation? If you can, that would help, because then I can keep watching what's going on in the Zoom. I'm not going to go through every line, and Sabine, you stay as long as you can, and when you have to go, you have to go. But we'll put this up here, and then I can. I'm just waiting for that to come up. While it happens, okay, here it comes. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we've done the preamble and core principles. Let's keep going down, and we talked about definitions as well. Yeah, it's going to have to be quite small because I need to keep going down, please. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, keep going down. Yeah. Yeah, we've done the definitions. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, there are a lot of definitions there, and they're very helpful. Over time, we have definitions, right? Go past rights and responsibilities as well, please. Right, okay. we'll stop there. Yeah, thank you. With the definitions, we are developing an encyclopedia of definitions for Asgardia Civic Society. And if you are generating legislation, it is always helpful to have definitions. One thing we need to do is actually have all the definitions in one place, so that if something has already been defined, it's always used in the same way. We haven't done that yet, but that's something that I really want us to do. Okay, thank you. So back to the education system, and here are Article 4. We've got structure and organization, governance and oversight, administration and inclusivity, stakeholder participation, standards and protection. Those are really core to the whole structure. And remember, this is a framework piece of legislation. It's setting out the big picture for the entire education system, and that's why it's so important we get this right. Okay, could you go to the next one? Assessment and evaluation. Now, this matters because when I was an MP, basically, we spent a lot of time arguing about how the system should be assessed, and that argument continues in British society even now. I think that these 5 points summarize it very well. It provides a standard measurement system for the whole of Asgardia's legislation as our education system, and puts it into legislation. It's dangerous to put too much detail into something like this, so I'm satisfied that this is a natural summary of what we have to do. One other thing here, Corner, Olivier done a huge amount of work on this as well. Much of this is excellent work that she did, and I think this accurately summarizes her professional view of the assessment and evaluation process. Okay, next part, 6. Right, I won't go into the detail here, but special education support. There's a long and never-ending discussion about how much support some people with special needs should have. If we have billions of people living in space, we're going to have the same problems, same challenges. We're not just simply going to have 20 gifted astronauts. We're going to have families which need to have all of the same specific needs settled as anywhere else. We don't need to discuss how we settle them and how we resolve them and how we pay for those now, because this is the framework piece of legislation. But this provides an overall view of how to do that. Okay, next part. Student welfare and protection. This is about a duty of care for students. I imagine it could even be possible that we'll have physical centers of excellence. So if you live on Mars, you'll go to a Mars center of excellence, for example. Or if it's astrobiology, it might be a solar system center of excellence. It depends how big the deal is. But this ensures that there are rights for students. And it's once again a framework. It doesn't go into every single line. Okay, next part, 8. Youth education and participation. Now, this matters because it's a matter of essentially continuous improvement. It ties in a little bit with Article 7, and you could argue 7 and 8 should be the same article, but I think that it's okay to have them separate. I am an educational professional, but I'm an educational professional in adult education in a corporate environment. I am not a qualified teacher. So if teachers tell us that's what we need, that's what we need. Okay, next part, item Article 9. Now, teacher development. We have to have teacher training. We have to make sure that our teachers are good enough to do the job that they're being given. And although this is only a 4 clause article, absolutely central to the quality of education that we have. We're going to live in a very hostile environment, which is the solar system. Earth can be hostile too. Once you leave Earth, it's even harder. We have to make sure that the teaching is good enough to keep our species alive and educated and progressing. So I think that one of the very interesting parts of what we're doing here is creating the teaching standards process, really, and the development that goes with it. Next part, Article 10 is funding and resources, self-explanatory. Then partnerships and collaborations, Article 11, that ties in to what Sabahattin's been talking about just now, and he's taking active steps here. Based on Sabahattin's report, it's obvious that we can actually develop the credibility of our own education system by working with others who are already doing this very well. And that I think is a really important thing. Okay, number 12, that ties into continuous improvement, monitoring and evaluation. I don't need to go into that in detail. Let's go to 13. Transitional provisions and enforcement. This, once again, provides us a basic structure for how we get from where we are to where we need to be. And importantly, it sets out state responsibilities. I mentioned earlier on that we have in the United Kingdom a state system and a private system of education. We need to make sure we understand that. It's a debate we have to have with health provision as well. One of the problems we have in the United Kingdom is a very large percentage of the state spending is on health. And we need to make sure that Asgardia does not end up in a situation where we just become a health service. I think the same goes for education. We need the education to take place. We can't spend all our money on education, even though education is important, because we have to build the places we're going to live in. And we need people to be educated enough to help us build it. So I think the transitional provisions are actually important for us because they will stop us getting stuck in an infinite loop of expenditure by accident. Okay, if you carry on. And dispute resolution, we tend to put this into most of our legislation, or a lot of it, and it summarizes how we fix our problems. So this is the second reading. So it's the first time. You can go to, I think that's the bottom, that's the end of it. I think that's the last part. We thank you very much, Sarah. For me, then, we're in a situation where we can sensibly and meaningfully make progress with this if you agree with it. If you do agree with it, it'll go to third reading with whatever changes are proposed. After that, we can start actually building the different blocks of the education system itself. That's a brief summary. Any comments or questions or suggestions? I'll ask Aliona and Linda to write these down. Okay. I think it's a very good piece of work. I'm pleased that it's come forward. It's actually been moving forward slowly for about 2 years now. It's just so big, and that's the reason why it's taking so long. But we'll get there, and I think this is a big step forward. What happens next with this, if you agree, is that we will move to, if this goes forward and gets approved, we will move to the third reading, and then we begin to do individual bits of legislation to do the rest. When I wrote out, we worked with Corner to write out the entire legislative agenda, it came to about 35 pages. Big document, 18,000 words, maybe even 20,000 words. Too big to handle in one go, so we need to break it into smaller parts. And this framework really defines the structure that we're working with. Any comment? Okay, good. Thank you. The Bahad team will be ready, willing, and able in 2 weeks' time to present it. Go to Ariadne. Go ahead. Ariadne.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, the only thing is about how will the process of validating studies to belong to the Asgardian school work. I don't know if is this needed or not? This is my comment, my question. Thank you.
That's a good question, and it needs an educational answer. I think we spend a lot of time trying to work out the best way to do this in the United Kingdom. There are actually 3 bits of evaluation: evaluating the system, evaluating the people who are running the system, and evaluating the people who are going through the system. So it's the system itself, the teachers, and the students. And this is a huge area of work. When I used to work for a big company, I used to spend a massive amount of time on staff evaluation. And it's a great question. I can't answer that because I don't know enough. Well, I don't feel qualified compared to other people. We'll come to Ricky in a second. I don't feel qualified to comment on it, but that's the sort of thing that we can do later once we've got the framework in place. The framework enables us to answer those questions, but it doesn't answer those questions. Ricky.
Yes, my internet dropped off, so I missed some of what you were saying. But my question is this just for Asgardian residents, or is it for the general population also?
General population. General population.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't get the way to look at it is if you're not a resident, you still have the right to education. But it's a great question. Nobody has asked that before.
I mentioned it a while back.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention then. I apologize.
No, it was mentioned when I forget her name, when she was chair.
Corner Olivia.
Yeah, when she was chair, I brought that up.
It's a great question. I would allow others to go through it as well. The reason I answer that immediately is because in the United Kingdom, there are many foreign students, especially in the higher education system, and they come to the United Kingdom because the education system at tertiary level, at university level, is so good. We would be the same. Also, think about it this way. If you are a German family with skills on airlock design, you might not be Asgardian residents, but you still may live with your children for 5 years on Mars. They have to be able to be educated. We can't simply say you're not Asgardian, so you can't be educated. That just is not realistic. So the system has to be open to people who are staying with us but are non-residents. But you need to keep raising that because it's the sort of thing we could forget if we're not careful, and that could be very damaging to Asgardia. Okay. Any other comments on this one? I think I'm just checking to see if no, that's everybody. I think I'm just checking the notes. Yeah, your net dropped out. He said, how would the process, Ariadne says, how would the process of validating studies to belong to the Asgardia school work? That is something that we have to resolve at a later stage once the framework is in place. Once the framework is in place, we can answer the detailed questions, but we can't do that at the moment, just because they are detailed questions. Ricky.
One thing to look at is like when there's certain courses that you have to take, let's say for hospitality. Now they have SurfSafe is a good example. The school might teach it, but the testing is done through another institution. And so they do the testing online for that. So that's something that that would have to be researched more as to, let's say someone's in London and they have to test, but only MIT gives that test. So there has to be correlation between a testing site and the institution that's actually giving the test. So that's something that really has to be looked into and studied.
These are all the debates that we need to have at a later stage. Yeah, you're quite right. But they're all the debates that we need to have at a later stage. Totally agree. And all of that should be possible within the Framework Act. Any other comments on this? Okay, good. Thank you. And thank you, Sabah team, for joining us at rather short notice. Let's move on to the next item, which is Ferda can't make it with today anyway, as I remember, she told me. So let's go to the two that we've got here. Again, I've taken a bit longer than I expected to get this far, actually. I want to go to the Asgardia Space Debris Mitigation and Management Act. I don't know if Sarah's willing to be my helper again. I want to go through this. Now, this is the second reading, and then after that, we'll do the Space Traffic Management Act second reading as well. Now, these are interesting pieces of legislation because they matter to us. Essentially, if we don't get this right, then we'll smash. Well, there's a much higher risk of our spacecraft being smashed to pieces by other spacecraft, and we don't really want that. So let me go through this, and we've passed the first reading, so I'll just go through this fairly quickly. And again, if you remember the first reading, we passed the preamble and the core principles that you see there. They've already been covered. So let's go to the other articles. Right, stop there. We'll just have a look at the articles. Go up a bit, please. Well, actually, looks like I can do it as well. I'm amazed. I'm actually able to move things. I feel the power. Thank you. This was actually very helpful. This is a great discovery I've made about Zoom, because it means I can keep you on the screen while also looking at the items. There are 13 articles here, and it's the minimum necessary, as far as we can see, to make space safe. That's what we're trying to do. And if you look at, I'll just go through the main points here. Oh, can we go down? Yeah, great. Purpose. I'll read the purpose, but not everything else. The purpose of the Space Debris Mitigation and Management Act is to address the critical issue of space debris and ensure the long-term sustainability of outer space activities. In short, because of what humans have put into space, and sometimes they smash into each other, there are tens of thousands of bits of debris, any one of which could wreck a spacecraft. So we're trying to create something which will be internationally and interspatially, if that's a word, applicable, that it can actually work. And the reality is, it's not just something that we need, it's something that everybody in space needs. We may hope that a basketball-sized piece of debris doesn't come and hit us, but if it does, that will ruin. That would hit. If that hit the International Space Station, it would destroy the ISS. It would just destroy it. Absolute disaster area. So if we go down the definitions, and I realize the latitude I have, I can zoom in, but I can't move beyond what is being given. There are simple definitions, but it really matters. And we're really talking about space debris being human-made. It's worth remembering there is natural space stuff as well, meteorites and space rock and dust and so on. But we're mainly concerned with space debris made by humans because that's something which is much more in our control. Right. Then the requirements, which I won't go through, you can read them for yourselves. Then the monitoring and tracking system. There's an incredible tracking system already. it can actually see things which are the size of your finger, and it can track them. And the International Space Station and other space stations get moved around to avoid the debris. It's really a complicated system, but it does work. Sometimes things get hit, and there is evidence that some spacecraft have been destroyed by a space debris. It may not be human-made, but it may be too. So that's the monitoring and the tracking is important. We are technically good at that as a society, as a species, but we need to also objectify it. Why reinvent something that might be working? But we have to get this right. Ariadne made some interesting points about it as well. Ariadne wants the screen to be a bit bigger. Well, I can make it as big as possible. Yeah, but I can't make it bigger than that because then I can't see. Then I can't see you. Okay, then liability. If you destroy somebody else's spacecraft because a piece of debris was created by you, who's responsible? And this tries to cover that. But we're talking about multi-billion-dollar bills when things go wrong. Yep, keep going. The next one. You have to work internationally. You can't just sit in one place and hope that if you do it right, everybody else is doing it right. And we're dealing with people's lives here as well. If you smash up a spacecraft, you could destroy lives at the same time. There's a very dramatic opening scene in two films. One's called Gravity and the other one's called Armageddon, where this scenario is shown, that things destroy people just because of the massive kinetic energy of something hitting your spacecraft, or indeed a human. It would only take one fairly small hole in a spacesuit, and even though they're designed to survive some impacts, that could kill you. So that's interesting. It's also scientifically very interesting, I have to say. Right, next we've got enforcement and penalties, followed by funding and resources. And finally, review and revision. Well, actually, and also implementation, I think, as well. But review and revision, we're going to have to keep evolving this based on what we learn. I'm sorry to say, probably there will have to be tragedies for us to learn everything we can learn. There will have to be some disasters before we get it more right. And this will probably be the truth for a long, long time. In the film Passengers, the whole story is about a spacecraft which is hit by an object, and then that creates consequences. It's a big object that hits that spacecraft. But if you watch it, it's an interesting concept. Then we got implementation we need to discuss. Let's go on down to 11. Severability, just like a break clause. Dispute resolution and enactment. I think enactment's the last item. So we hope to be ahead of the world on this because we're above the world. And our place, thank you, Sarah, our place is in space. So it's kind of important that we get this just right. Any questions on that one? That's the second reading. Okay. We'll have a bigger discussion on this on 2 weeks' time, on Saturday. If it's approved, as always, we'll go to the third reading. And then after that, we can actually start trying to get allies around the world to buy into this and put it into their state legislation too. That's what I've got in mind, that we get to a stage where we are the blueprint for this vital legislation, certainly for all countries that send things into space. Ariadne.
Thank you. Well, disseminate the idea of Asgardia about the space debris, I think is very, very, very important. And this document, I like it because it's the position of the Asgardians about the trouble of the space debris. I think I'm thinking in the last video about the several satellites from Elon Musk yesterday, and I think, well, maybe he has a manage and the know-how to manage all that debris. I don't know, but it's important to create the connections with the people that create the problem, because if them create the problem, they have a solution, maybe. And that's wonderful to create a discussion or a convention to connect with all that people and know how they manage all that trouble or not.
Well, keep going, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. You are in the same path, and I think it's good, because the trouble is not for oh, I have all the money for cover the world. No, the trouble is, are you thinking in the world, or are you thinking in your enterprise industries? This is I think it's a good question for the people that think if they have the money, they can cover the world with debris. Why? Yes, it's okay. It's a good question, I think.
I think that's right. We haven't yet had, as far as I know, a major claim against another party in space on the basis that their spacecraft is destroyed by somebody else's debris. It's also hard to prove, because you really would have to prove that particular bit of some piece of metal or whatever was actually from China or Britain or Spain. So it's a difficult one, and it's not realistic to track every item of debris. By definition, it's debris, it's bits of stuff, and so I don't know if that makes it impossible, but it shouldn't be impossible in the future. And so we need to think very much about the questions that you've asked there. It might be that if you end up creating a lot of space debris, you have to pay a cleanup charge, and then that's used to defend the other vehicles in space. Ricky.
Yeah, I had brought this up a long time ago, last part, when we were kind of discussing things like this. To collect the debris and recycle it, to me, would seem a better option than just deorbiting, because you have some satellites that have basically atomic batteries on them, and they get deorbited into the atmosphere. So you're kind of creating a dirty bomb that way. And I think that if there was some way to gather debris, small debris, big debris, and take it to a Lagrange point where it could be stored, then components can be recycled. Yeah, there's going to be stuff that, governments don't want you to recycle with that. You just let that, you give it back to that government. But things like, shielding, the shells, plumbing, piping, engines, those can be recycled, either repurposed or broken down into their components and made into something else.
Well, I agree.
That I think would be a better option.
You can do
in
that
the long run.
You can do that with the big things, but you can't do that with marble-sized objects and bits of microchip which are just floating about.
Well, there are companies that are trying to basically sweep those up by using a sticky webbing type instrument. I think Germany is one of them that was looking at that. But yeah, to me, that would be a better solution overall.
The problem we've got is that the small ones, there are tens of thousands of them, and there is talk about using magnets or nets to collect them, but a lot of the time they're going so fast to go through it, right through whatever you're trying to catch it with. I think in a way the best thing to do is to create a system where the big items are collected before they become a problem. But at the moment, the problem is it's a little bit like beach sand. It started off as rocks, but it grinds down, and now we've got these tens of thousands of tiny objects, which on their own individually aren't very valuable, but they can do incredible damage. Something the size of my mobile phone, if something like this hit the International Space Station at 17,000 miles per hour, it would certainly damage the space station. It might ruin it. If there's something the size of a, I don't know, washing machine hit the International Space Station, I don't think it would survive. So that's the issue we've got. But we're going into the detail there. Essentially, this document, this proposal, exactly tries to cover that kind of information and find active solutions to this as well. Anybody else on this? Okay, thanks. Let's go on to Ferda's other document. Then we'll have a quick 5-minute break while I call John again, because I've got to see if I can find him. I don't want to do John's as well. I can, but I don't want to. But Ferda's given me permission to do this one. Ferda's been very busy and so forth. The Asgardia Space Debris. I'm sorry. Let me start again. The Space Traffic Management Act. I don't know if Sarah can very kindly again. You've been an absolute star, Sarah. Thank you. Right. This is a second reading, which means we've already done the preamble and the core principles. They've already been covered. So the articles, yeah. Essentially, this document is about having a traffic light system for space, just like we have in the UK. There's 13 clauses, 13 articles. So let's go down to the first one. The purpose, and once again, let's talk about the purpose. It's basically to establish a comprehensive framework that governs activities in outer space to make sure that everyone drives on the left or everyone drives on the right, that you have the same rules about parking. It's actually a little bit back to what Peter said earlier on about regulations on Earth. It's like it's like the 1834 UK Traffic Management Act. That may not be quite what it was called, but it was in 1834 and it still applies today. We need to get this right, because otherwise there's a danger that we will destroy ourselves just by not paying attention, by looking right when we really should be looking left. It's an interesting piece of legislation, and it's very important to us because if we're successful, we'll have more people living in space than anybody else. Asgardia could have millions of people there, and billions of people this century. Doesn't have to be a long way out. If you watch the film, I often talk about films because their science fiction special effects are really good. If you look at Ad Astra, which is a film about loneliness actually, but it's based in space. They've got a space lift which goes from the ground of Earth into space, and something actually happens with it, and one of the astronauts that's working on it falls, but he's able to parachute down. This is kind of interesting because we don't know quite how we'll reduce the amount of cost it takes to getting things into space, but a space lift, a space elevator is one possibility, but then you've got to make sure people don't drive into it. And so the purpose is to make sure that we have an orderly process of traffic management. It's as simple as that. Okay, let's go down then. We'll go through these quickly. There are definitions which I won't go through, so let's go to the next thing. Right, regulatory authority. I can see a spelling mistake. Anyone can make a note? I need to get that changed to regulatory authority. That's the idea of having essentially a space traffic traffic control system, just like an airport would have. Then we've got space traffic regulations, the next part. And one thing I want to make sure is we don't make this unnecessarily complicated. This is all about safety. And it's not about the safety of people in their own spacecraft. If you want to crash your craft and you're competent, you're not competent, then go ahead. We don't want you to do it, but we can't stop you. This is about causing harm to third parties. And that's why we need to have regulations. Right, next part, R5. This is interesting. Situational awareness. Know where you are and make sure the people know where you are. One of the great triumphs of our society, of our species, is to actually be able to control billions of cars in the world without endlessly crashing. Crashes happen and some of them are fatal, but most of it works. So situational awareness really matters, and that is a cross community thing. Keep going. Enforcement and penalties. We need to talk about what they look like. And if you smash up a $500 billion spacecraft, do you have to have insurance to pay for it? There are lots of questions we have to cover there, but needs to be covered. Right, 7. Funding and resources, usual point about budget allocation, but also about research and development, because this is an area that we can keep getting better at. And same also with point 8, with Article 8, review and revision. Effective date needs to be, under implementation, needs to be decided really by the head of nation. But I would simply say we need to get all this right before 500 of us living in a spacecraft. The worst thing that could possibly happen is we all move up there, 500 of us, and then it's hit by a golf ball sized object, which tears a hole into the spacecraft and kills everyone before they can do anything about it. We have a vested interest in implementation and getting that date right. Next part. Severability. The point here is that some people could try to, if they have a problem with the legislation or they've committed a problem, created a problem, we have to have a way out of that. We have to be in a situation where we're protected in terms of you can come. Sorry, I've just been asked by a little one. We have to be able to know who's responsible, and we have to make sure that they can't escape their responsibility by somehow saying, well, this part of the legislation's failed, then it's all failed. And the same goes for dispute resolution, which is the next part. Let's go to 12. By enactment, which is just basically when it begins. I would say we have to have this in place. Thank you. We have to have this in place before we send a lot of people into space. We can actually send a few people into space. You could even send 50 people into space, who knows? But we're gambling, and we don't want to be gambling with people's lives. And that's why I think this is an important piece of legislation. Okay, that's my run through. And as I was talking, I remember I promised to further that we would go through that. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. I realize when I'm talking, things take longer, so I don't like to do it too much. What we're going to do, so on that one, that's going to be second reading. It's going to come up, that'll be covered by further in 2 weeks' time as well. And if you approve it, then it goes to third reading. But you can also make comments and make proposals now, or also next Thursday or in 2 weeks' time. Okay, fine. Let's keep moving. I realize we've actually already done almost 1.5 hours. Just checking if any comments. Our awareness of each country, I'll say, has its own regulations, and some are more progressive than others. One of the problems is our conflicts. They've never really been put together in one group, one place. The USA, says Ariadne, has a greater responsibility, but it's taken on a huge responsibility in terms of tracking space debris, but it's also put a lot of stuff up there. but we can't start pointing at one country or another, because if a small country puts up 2 satellites and smashes them into each other, that will create thousands of objects. So we all have to really be limited by the same legislation. And if we start pointing fingers of blame at each other, that's not going to work. Okay, good. Thank you for that. We've got 2 more. I'm going to just have a quick 5-minute break while I call John. That's the only reason I want to have the break. So let's start again in 5 minutes at 12:30 UTC. I'm going to call John because I don't want to cover John's. These next 2 are bits of legislation we've already looked at, and I can cover them, but I'd like us to get John to do this as well.
Not answering, Lambert. He's still not answering.
Yeah, well, thanks for trying, but I'll try and call him as well. And if he doesn't answer, then we'll come back in 5 minutes and I'll take it up. Because there's a little bit of politics in this as well, these next 2. They've been through before, but John wasn't happy, and I can explain what was going on. So in 5 minutes' time, let's come back, and then either John will do them or I will. I'll see you in 5. Don't leave. the things that have to be checked, but it also wants to limit that as well. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're done on that. Considerations is an interesting one. It is essentially some items that we have to be aware of. We go down. One example I'll show you is the decentralized autonomous organization principles. And that's about saying, we talked about this quite a lot at the Congress in Dubai. We don't want everything to be centralized. If you centralize everything, you create a hierarchy, you create a state where everything has to go through one point. And we know that that slows things down. We don't want that. What we want is a free-flowing state that can really deliver without every single thing having to be checked. I've noticed that the Parliament works better now because I don't check every single thing that everyone's doing all the time. So much more is happening in Asgardia than I know about. It has to be that way. How can one person be in charge of checking everything? Can't be done. So I think particularly the decentralized autonomous organization principles are important because it defines how the system can work without having to be checked endlessly by one or two people. The next part Ricky should care about, data security and privacy. We live in a digital society, and anybody who lives in the United Kingdom knows the incredible damage that bad actors in the digital world can do, usually to try and earn money. And it's essentially about access control, which is 6.4 here. And it's a continuing fight between the bad people and the good people. And this tries to outline a balance there. You can actually make a system unusable if you try to make it too secure. So there is a balance. But I personally think there needs to be a mind change. There needs to be some kind of a breakthrough piece of thinking that makes hacking pointless. I don't know what that system is, but maybe it's something that we can generate here by further discussion in that second and third reading. Keep going. Right, feedback and improvement mechanisms, we've discussed that before. This is the same again. I think quarterly updates is too frequent myself, but that's what is being proposed. I don't think that'll happen. In my view, when you over-assess, then it doesn't get done at all. Dispute resolution remedies, this is important because money is involved. And when money is involved, we live in a material world and people fight. So there has to be a very clear disputes resolution. Next item, next article. Oh, that might well be it. I thought there were 10. Let me just go back up to the articles. Oh, it is 8. Sorry, I'm mixing up with the previous one. That's basically it. John will probably be angry. He'll join us any minute, I guess. Angry because he's probably got a great presentation which he can show us if he wants to. Might have something to add, but that's basically what we are aiming to do with this, and I think it's a nice piece of work. Now back to this. I've gone through it quickly because we've already discussed it as a protocol, and I'm not sure if we have to discuss it again in great detail, but we will technically have to treat it as a new piece of legislation. I'll come to this next one in just a minute. I think John's main concern was that a protocol wasn't enough, that it's so important to get this right that we have to do more than just a protocol, and we actually have to enshrine this in legislation, because if there are disputes, that could absolutely ruin our business or harm our business credibility if we don't have a good way of looking at it. It's not just that. The other point of it is, if you do this well, we have a competitive advantage over other countries. And while we don't get involved in Asgardia doesn't get involved in global politics, we're very happy to compete with it. And we're very happy to look like we're more attractive to potential businesses than anyone else. Britain is losing about 15,000 millionaires a year at the moment, because a lot of millionaires don't like the political changes which have taken place. I have no comment as an Asgardian on that, but I do know that other countries are trying to attract those actual individuals, the high net worth people, precisely because they say, well, if you don't like Britain, why do you come and try us? And that makes sense. We can do the same thing. And if we're a credible place to make money, people won't care what our long-term massive ambitions are for space, because they'll want to make money on Earth. But if they can do both, then there's no problem. Then everybody wins. And I would say that that's really essentially what we're trying to do here. Okay, any questions on that one before we move to the next one? Okay. Let me do this one as well. As I say, I think that John will probably join us just as we're getting to the end of this one, but we will see. It's this Asgardia Digital Content Authorization Act. So go down a bit, go to the articles. One second. Yeah. Let me just check that I've got exactly the same version. I'm just checking between two screens. Yeah. I should, by the way, say Alexander Melnikov's been very heavily involved in this as well. So, okay, if we go to the top. Now, we're starting with this. Technically starting with this again, even though we part of the protocol, exactly the same reason, which I don't need to repeat, but John Fine thinks that these are important enough to be legislation, not just protocols. And he explained that to the head of nation, who seemed to be interested in what's being said. All right, so the preamble and the core principles. Let's go to the, well, I'll read the preamble. The Act aims to stimulate the activity of Asgardia's residents in creating and promoting digital content that aligns with the goals, philosophy, and projects of Asgardia. The goal of the program is to increase residency, retention, and patriotism. The national currency solar will be used as a means of motivation and compensation. So it's got a big ambition. It's basically to stimulate residency and activity. And included in that is the assumption that we're actually building the number of residents that we get as well, precisely because of what this is offering to do. The principles are interesting. I'll just highlight two: implementing micro rewards for social actions and civil servant works programs. That's good because it means you don't have to be building a spacecraft to feel like you're making a difference. You could be doing a lot much smaller thing, and that's absolutely fine because you don't have to spend all your time thinking, well, I'm just a small player here. A society works because of the collective efforts of everybody. There's that famous comment about, which was probably a made up story, but it's a good story, where John F. Kennedy meets somebody who's sweeping the floor in an Apollo warehouse, and it's an awkward moment, and he says, so what do you do? He says, Mr. President, I'm helping to send a man to the moon. That's true. Most of what I do isn't talking about sending someone to space, but it's about putting everything together to make that possible. And if you think about what happened at the Asgardia Executive Congress, for those who were there, that's exactly the same. Right, okay, so that's first thing. The other one is the improving residency point. It's a core principle of this piece of legislation. It's hard to mention Asgardia and patriotism. Maybe there is a way. It's about creating loyalty to Asgardia. I suppose I'd measure that by the number of residents that we have. Okay, let's go down to the definitions. So two definitions I want to highlight. Purpose I've discussed one last, right. Digital asset. We've talked about this quite a lot. I just want to highlight this because digital assets are really important and they're worth money. Any website, domain, application, web page, or other digital platform that has been officially authorized and recognized by Asgardia Space Nation for official use. Now, that's got political value, it's got financial value. Money can be made through that, but also our system is absolutely dependent on those systems working properly. They can't be 50%, they have to be 100%. or 98%. Let's say, let's admit no system's perfect. They have to be good enough not to fail under stress. And the other one I want to go for, just go down a bit. Right, okay. For those who may not know this, I think everybody here does, but viewers might not know this. The solar is the internal currency of Asgardia. One solar is worth €1. So it's tied to a very stable currency. Whether you like Europe or you don't like Europe, that doesn't matter. It's a stable currency. It's a big currency. And so the solar is our way of showing that we're a credible and serious currency. And that's very helpful too. That definition is only in here because it's so central to this and actually the previous piece of legislation. Right. Now, at the top of 3.1, yeah, 3 branches of government shall be empowered to implement micro works digital content. Now, what that's talking about is the same point I've just made. You might just have a better way of making a cup of coffee that works in space. Asgardia's government wants to empower you to make it. It's not going to say, well, it's not a booster rocket, so we're not interested. That does not mean that the Asgardia administration run everything. We do not want that. But Asgardia's government could say, okay, you know what? We're going to give you an experimental approval to have this new coffee cup in space for a year and see how it works. And people say, oh, that works, and then it gets approval, or they say it doesn't work, and so on. So it's about empowering. I stress this because my experience of terrestrial politics is a lot of the time it's so risk averse, it tries to stop people doing things rather than getting people to do things. That's very sad, because when that happens, it reduces initiative. We want to do the opposite. Keep going. Number 4. Keep going. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. There is actually a definition. Go on. So it says micro rewards shall be set within a defined range with a minimum value of 5 solar, maximum of 100 solar. Now, I don't know if that's right. I personally think that's too low, but we can discuss that here and we can discuss that at the digital sitting. I personally think it should be more like 1,000 solar, but it's a matter of judgment. You can think about that and decide what you think as well, but I will raise that again at the digital sitting. If John was here now, I'd be asking about that. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is very step by step, and it makes a lot of sense. The intent, 4.6, the intent of the program shall be to increase resident retention, foster economic cohesion, improve residency, and so on. Now it does that by making everybody potentially an entrepreneur, or a micro entrepreneur, if you like. And I really like the idea of it. If 10,000 Asgardians make 100 solars each, that's €1 million into solars into the economy. Just imagine if you do that once a month, then it's 12 million. Great trees from small acorns grow. And I think that's why this concept of the micro business is so successful. By the way, I don't know why countries on earth don't do this. The British government could make a massive uplift to the economy if they were focused on making everyone into a micro business or encouraging people to make small amounts of money. As it is, I feel that a lot of UK and global initiatives are cutting out the small person, the micro user, because the money is all in the billions. I met somebody on Tuesday where we were talking about multi-million-pound project. It would have been a much easier thing to have a €2,000 project, and that would have been agreed. As it is, we now have to spend months, years, or maybe not at all, maybe forever waiting for that to happen. Okay, let's go to the next part, 5. Feedback's really important here because I think we're doing something quite new. I think that for a state to be interested at the micro level, to encourage micro business activity is unusual, because states spend most of their time spending billions, losing billions, printing billions, or taxing billions. So if we can be operating at the micro level, maybe with millions of people, then we're doing something that others haven't done. And I think that's interesting. And that's why we need feedback. Let's go to number 6. Right, program tracking, that actually is a real-time way of improving continuously what we're doing. There's one thing about tracking software. Some people think there's a privacy issue there, and there can be. I have strong views about identity cards in Britain, but in Estonia, the system works very well because it's so efficient. It's designed to work for the public, not for the state. And I think that if we're careful that we don't violate the privacy things that I was discussing earlier on already with you, then we'll be in a good place. And the tracking should help us rather than hinder us. As I say, I've seen it work in Estonia, so it can be done. But I've also seen it fail in other countries where it just becomes an excuse to spy on citizens, and I wouldn't want to live in that sort of environment. Okay, next one. Right, the date is the date, and dispute resolution remedies, we always have that. So basically, one second. And basically, sorry, I have Angelina here, who's decided to get involved. They're waving at you, Angelina. Just wave quickly. There you go. That's all you get. Thank you. Right, and she's at a song competition today, and she did very well. She got a commendation.
Can I show them the certificate?
Yes. She wants to show you her certificate, and I'll show you. I'll let her do that because it's consistent with continuous learning. She left it in the car. It's raining. There we go. Okay. Okay, Angelina, I'm running a global conference. Can I talk to you in a short while? Right. Well, we're doing it for people like her. This is why we're doing it. Let me go back to, can we just go back to the, there's one more thing I wanted to put on the screen share, just at the bottom there, please. Right, just in terms of disputes, I just want to make another point here. However nice people think they are, when you have money involved, things get messy because people can be greedy. We can't depend on people's goodwill. We have to recognize that a system works in the worst circumstance, not the best. I've always said that I want Asgardia's parliament to default to stability under pressure. And the same goes for this kind of thing, because we're talking about, let's say, 1,000 micro industries, which even at 100 euros, 100 solars each is 100,000. So the dispute resolution and remedies, it sounds like an add-on at the end, but we have to set precedents, which means that there is less cynicism, less opportunism in how we run our systems than anybody else. And for me, that's it's quite a big ask, because we're asking people to be good, basically. We're asking people to be good, and you can only request it. You can't make people good, so therefore the system has to stop them from being bad to other people. But our system here in this micro industry, which applies to the big industry activity as well, that our system has to be so strong that people don't really bother trying. If you want to be badly enough, you can find a way to do it in any system. So I think it's important that we start from a position where people want to be good, because it's just not worth trying to be bad. The system will stop you from doing the wrong things. Okay, so we're looking at these two because, quite simply, thank you, Sarah. They started off as protocols, but we're elevating them back to legislation. I'm still waiting for the approval on this. And oh, by the way, as an example of a rather larger business, Ariadne says that Ria Delft has agreed to give a discount voucher to anyone who wants to go to the store, but only for residents who can prove they are residents, and that's encouraging. That's a great point. So that they're bigger than a micro industry. They turn over more than 100 solars. But once again, that's a good example of an initiative. In fact, it was the first business in Asgardia. And that's what I've said before. A first is a bigger record than a best, because you can never upstage a first. Okay, so those two pieces of legislation are back as legislation. I'm still waiting for the approval, but I didn't want to wait any longer. I wanted to share that with you to see if there are any questions or comments. Now, I'm just checking. John doesn't seem to have come in, so I can take these. If he's not here in the next 5 minutes, I'll assume that he's not able to do it today. But since we've got Sarah here, it means that, and others here, and we have Carol and Derek, it means that it's all working in America. Okay. What I'd like to suggest is that you seriously consider starting micro industries yourselves as well. It's it's low risk because it's low return. If you spend 100,000 and you only make 100 euros back, you probably shouldn't have done it. But if you spend 10 and make 100, then you probably should. Because then you can do that 100 times, and you make 10,000. So there's a big motivation to do this kind of thing. Okay, so I've gone through those. Are there any comments about those two? Okay. Let me have a look. Let me summarize them. I'm going to look at my screen now. Just to give you the big picture of what we'll be discussing on that day too. Alexandra Melnikov and John Fine's work on Asgardia Opportunities Act and Asgardia Digital Content Authorization Act, two protocols which John wants to have as legislation. Then we've got the second reading. They're both first reading. Second reading, Asgardia Space Debris Mitigation and Management Act, and Asgardia Space Traffic Management Act. The second reading, and further we'll be running those two. And then the Asgardia Youth and Education Framework Act. So Bahad Teen, who, even though he's at an event, very kindly called in earlier on to join us. So we've got 5 bits of legislation. 2 in first reading, 3 in second reading. Okay, that's what we'll be covering. There will also be government hour, which is important, and we'll be having.
We have to go home to get ready for Maria's Christmas special.
Short while. Yeah. Basically, 1 second. Can I finish this and then I'll talk to you. That's for you. Basically, with those pieces of legislation, it means we've got a fairly full slate of legislation coming through. And what matters to me is that we have good discussions on them, a lot of honesty about it. And then with the government tower, we can maybe to some extent talk about the good progress we made at the Asgardia Executive Congress. And I'm sure that issue will come up as well. Turning to other items, so that's the legislation. Let me cover 2 other items here and then go to any other business. Give it to Maria. Offer it to Maria. If I can move on from legislation, the 2 other items I want to cover. The reports are really important, that all 12 chairs of committees write reports, because I need to get them translated and sent to Dr. Asher Bailey. He's taking a personal interest in the work of the committees, like I said before. That really matters to him, and it should matter to all of us. It's great news. The other thing to say is that we've had some interesting ideas about other discussions that we need to have, but one of the biggest ones is this recurring theme of territory on the Earth. And I really want us to all be involved in that. I really want us all to feel this is a joint activity to find land that we can live with and live in. And it's not just a field someone will rent to us. This has to be land they actually hand over to the nation of Asgardia. Whatever we think about Antarctica, and I still think I think it's more possible than other people do sometimes, but I think it can be done. In fact, I'm sure it can be done. It's a question of how, and then question of deciding, is that the best way, or there are other faster ways we can do it at the same time. But however we do it, what matters to me more than anything else is that we actually get ourselves to a position where we can say we've achieved all 4 elements of the Montevideo Convention, wherever that is. I'll come to Peter in a minute. And as a result of that, we can actually safely and confidently say to any potential resident of Asgardia and citizen, here's where you can come to. Here's your passport. There's the land. Here's the population. There's the government. And here's your opportunity. Peter.
Thank you, Lambert. This is perhaps the slightly controversial bit of this. I mean, I'm 100% in favour of what the head of nation is wanting to do in acquiring land, whether it be in the Antarctic or somewhere else. But the important thing, and I know John Fine differs with me on this, is that we have to acquire the sovereignty of that piece of land. Because otherwise somebody will say, well, you ain't gonna have that land. And then they'll say, well, actually, it's still our land. It mustn't be. It must be ours entirely. And nobody can question it then. So that we can issue postage stamps, we can issue anything we want from that land. And A, we can make some money from Asgardia, for Asgardia. But B, it is then sovereign Asgardian territory. And I think that's absolutely vital. So if we acquire an island in the Seychelles, it has not got to be dependent on the overall sovereignty of the Seychelles government. It's got to be ours, and we have to answer to no one, except to the world if we start a world war or whatever, but otherwise it's just ours. And I think that's so important. And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking to the head of nation about when we discuss the legalities. Sorry, I just think it's important, so I wanted to stress it.
The point about sovereignty is central. That applies to Antarctica, it would apply to a 10-hectare island in the Seychelles. It would apply to Belize, wherever we go. Sovereignty is vital. We cannot have the behavior of rentniks. We have to. What? One sec. 5 minutes. Right. Come back in 5.
So too. Can you see in the 5 minutes? Can you see?
No, not at the moment. Sorry. No, it's okay. She's excited because she did her first performance in front of an audience as a singer today, and she did very well. And I'm very proud of her. And so she can't hear you, but she likes to wave. She wants to go into space. Do you want to go to space? There we go. Okay, I trained her well. The point about sovereignty is that little ones like this can actually have their passport and travel with their passport as a recognized citizen of Asgardia. I'm not sure. Do you want to live in the Antarctic? Okay, well, maybe we'll. Pardon? She would freeze. She said, well, we'll give you a nice coat. But essentially, we have to have somewhere where our children and our parents and our families can actually visit and say, this is our land. And the sovereignty one is an absolutely central point. Whatever else we do, and I think you're right. This isn't like playtime. I'm sure we could rent an island if we wanted to. We could buy an island, but we actually have to buy its sovereignty too. Ariadne.
Thank you very much. Well, I figure out the reason because John Fine isn't here. Oh, do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
yes,
because he made a greater and biggest book with all the considerations to find the land. And I saw all the pages and said, "Oh, your ChatGPT is working so hard with you. He needs a name." And he said, "Yes, but it's not a man, it's a lady." And she said, "I want to request her if he wants to mention a name for your work." I don't know. I say to him, my ID worker has a name. Well, it's a joke, a joke for all of us in this moment. But the most important is I saw the exhaustive work from John Fine to make a comprehensive this situation that we need to find our land. I love the idea to Antarctica, and I'm laughing because when you request your daughter, "Do you want to go to Antarctica?" she says no. I love that. Thank you.
But doesn't know because she's never been there. But maybe she'd like a warmer place. But if she wants to go, if I tell her to go to Antarctica, she'll have to go to penguin school with all the other penguins.
Yes, she knows.
Thank you for that. And I still think the great thing is we've got the name for the country, Asgardia. We've got a population of 1.1 million. All we need is land. We need land big enough to hold people. But this is why I ask you every time. And I'll ask you again on Sunday in 15 days. And I'll put a date on it. By such and such a date, give me people that we can talk to about taking land that they are willing to give us sovereignty over. We won't harm anyone. We'll never have a stand in an army. We'll just have us in Asgardia being in peace for all humankind. Ada. Ada?
Yes, hello.
Hi, up. You had your hand up.
Okay. Thank you for she's beautiful. Thank you for having me today. Sometimes I feel bad because we write proposal, good proposal, but sometimes it let it go and it takes only the same people. I'm sorry to tell about that, but it's true. And the other thing is that if you talk to somebody about girl stuff, no, that somebody did this because he got assigned bachelor or whatever, he's better, but that's good, we cannot be like this is better than that one. When we study in different states or nation, we don't study sometimes the same culture. We study some part of the culture. It depends on the on what you study at the same times, right? So if I study criminal or justice, they're gonna have only the backgrounds of those things, right? So long time I wrote 2 proposals and I sent it to you, very good proposal about lands. And it was very, very, very writing. Even Ricky wrote read that, and it was good, but never takes to share and talk about it. But because what I see, and I'm sorry to you, it's only the same people. Why? I've been told that somebody doesn't want my paper there, and I could tell you in private. So why? And now you're talking about the land. I say I wrote two of those, and I send it to you. But every time I send it to you, it stays like nothing. And they are very right. It's not a mystic or awful writing. Is professional writing, and you know that I've been participating sometimes in your forum, and they are good. So we are talking about land now, and what happened with those proposals that is in the back? It stays in the garbage or what? It's good about taking a certain land because in there we make more business. In there we grow for Asgardia Space Nation. All the needs that we need for Asgardia Space, we could build it right here first to have it over there. It's a lot of needs that we need to build a big space nation floating in space. Even we need a land to transport people up there, in the new space, and for business people, the people that are not resident, they want to visit, whatever, we need a land. So I'm sorry I told you this, but I had to. I think I'm not stupid. I try to be honest, and I always be honest when I say something. Thank you.
No, thank you. You're perfectly entitled. That's good feedback. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I follow that up. And also, you're right. I need a push sometimes, and that's helpful. That this is an open forum, and it's quite completely 100% right for you to say whenever you think something can be done better, and including when I can do it better. So, action step. I'll go through your items. Aliona, please put that down as an urgent priority. And I agree with you. Obviously, I want to have more participation as well. So my action step is I'll go through those and I'll be able to get back to you. I'm looking at the fact John's not here, so I'm glad I've covered his items. No doubt we'll talk later. And let me just check what else we have here. Okay, right, we've got to the end then. I'll take Ada's point seriously and I'll follow that up after this session. So we had the opening with my announcements. We've covered the Asgardia Opportunities Act first reading, the Asgardia Digital Content Authorization Act first reading, the Asgardia Space Debris Mitigation and Management Act second reading, the Asgardia Space Traffic Management Act second reading, the Asgardia Youth and Education Framework Act second reading. All of those will be at the digital sitting, which leads me to my last item before we close. It says future events. The next future event that really matters is the digital sitting of the Asgardian Parliament, the final one for this year, which will be on the 5th, 6th and 7th of December. So I just ask you to be available for that, please. And that will be our concluding event for this year. And I hope that we can make progress on all 5 of those bits of legislation in the process. If you've got any problems or issues afterwards, Ada's raised one there, but that's about me making sure I respond, then get in touch anytime. We've got the chairs meeting and the meeting of Parliament next Thursday. And then we've got one more before we actually have the sitting. And then that's when we'll be able to that's when we'll be able to hopefully progress on all of that. One last request is, if you've got any feedback for those bits of legislation, then please let me know straight away, and then I can do something about it. I want to make space somewhere that this young one and others can live, and I'd like to visit as well. So she can't hear you, but you could see you waving, Ariadne, and Peter as well. So yeah, so here's my little mascot, and there's Sarah. Here's my motivation to make this work, because her generation should think of living in space as a normal thing, and we can make that extraordinary thing become normal. If you've been watching at home, that concludes the Asgardia Legislative Forum for today. Thank you very much. Do please think about paying the €100 or so, Lars, but €100 or the equivalent in your currency, and become an Asgardian resident. that entitles you to do all the things that any other resident can do, and takes you one step closer to stepping on the highway to space. I'm Lematopic, and with that, we can close the broadcast. Thank you very much for watching.